good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the part of the world. This is Troy Richardson, your co-host for Math Men About Their Health, with my esteemed colleagues from the UK, Mr. Unisa Kamara, and Long Island, New York, Dr. Dre from Yo MTV Raps. And gentlemen, we are so excited that we have our sister, the wonderful, phenomenal Dr. Sarita Graham, all the way from Kansas City, Missouri. So welcome to my esteemed panel. How is everybody today?
Wonderful.
I am
Great.
well. I am well. This is Dr. Dre. I am well.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get right into this because this topic it's needed, right? We are living it daily in our lives and with our loved ones, our friends, our coworkers. It's in the news, but mental health, right? And I know when I first presented this to Unisa, my wise wisdom one, he said, mental health, it's such a broad subject. Where are we going to dive into? And I thought about it, right? And then something said the words that we choose, how they can hinder us, how they can hurt us, how they could build us up or break us down. So I wanted to dive in with the words that we choose when we're communicating, whether in a relationship, business, or personal, your children, right? So many words that we can choose. And sometimes, unfortunately, we do choose the wrong words. We might have the right intentions, but we just choose the wrong words. And how they're received means everything. So we want to make sure that we get it right and that hopefully we can give you a few tips and pointers that you can also start getting it right when you're communicating. So Dr. Sarita, let's start with you. First of all, it's Women's History Month. Congratulations to all our beautiful women out there. And we just again, thankful and grateful that you are here with us. So if you can just help us out and so we can understand mental health and the impact of words that we choose to use with each other.
I think one of the key components is it has to deal with your early childhood. And most of the time, when you're dealing with mental health, it actually begins at the age of 14. We in our community, we don't diagnose those situations. The first thing we say in our community is, oh, they crazy of that sort, not knowing that they're dealing with some serious mental health issues. Some of the mental health issues that you probably will see, or I've seen, is you look at an individual, the anxiety disorder of that individual. Then you have to look at the major depression of that individual, because you got to go back and look at our dynamics when we were coming up as a kid, what we had to deal with. And so our mental health, I always say, is a little different than the Caucasians' mental health, because early on they're able to get help. And when we were coming up, they always said, well, they just crazy. So then you got to look at the substance abuse orders that people use that also can put them in different mental health pockets. Then you look at the bipolar. There's so many different mental health issues that a lot of people are having, schizophrenia, and we used to say, oh, they look cuckoo, they crazy. But we didn't know any better. And so when you look at our male dynamics, you got to look at the home dynamics, the whole family. You have to assess that family, what went on in that family from generation to generation. So we're not looking at the whole dynamics of the mental health. So like some people said, it's generics. I look at my grandfather, they found him in a closet covered up. But they put them in a mental institution. And back then, how they did, they would put the stain on your head and electrocute you and all that kind of stuff. Thought that was the answer of solving the problem. But the best answer, I think, and I'm going to keep it real, is your relationship with God. Try to find someone that can understand what you're going through, what you've been through. Now, most of my clients, I do a family dynamics. I want to know what's in your generation when you was a child. How far can you go back? What have you experienced? What have you seen? How many mental health situations are in your family? So you got to look at the whole dynamic. Then it has to be diagnosed. I tell everybody, I said, you know what? Now we're in a little modern days where we can reach out. But I tell everybody, go on Amazon and buy a mental health wheel. Because on that wheel, it tells you how you feel, why you feel, what you feel. And so when you wake up, you can look at it and say, oh, I'm feeling this way. And then it leads you to an area where you can assess your own stuff and say, oh yeah, I am dealing with that issue. We don't actually expose how we feel. Well, I'm depressed today. You know, people look at that as not something positive to say. But then I said, you know what? I'm struggling with something today. Can you listen to me? Then some people say, well, I don't have time to listen to you. You know, that's cuckoo stuff you're thinking. So we have to learn to more come together and understand each one's need and able to talk it out. The best thing is, you know, relate to how you feel. You can't do it with everyone, but I suggest you, hey, find someone that you can talk to let them know, you know what, I'm not feeling well today. This is what I'm dealing with. I feel suicidal. Because most of the time when the people are doing suicidal, they can't actually talk to the right individual that can encourage them in a positive way. We look at it as a negative way. Well, ain't my problem. But if we are who we say we are, and we have compassion for our brother or our sister, then I can listen and not say nothing. But my inner man is actually praying for the person. And so we face many, many hurdles in our community. And one of the first things they want to give our community is medication. And the medication we give our community, you know what they do with the medication? They go sell it on the street. So you're still looking at a different type of problem. So you're looking at dual diagnosis. You're looking at them actually using the medication and then using some of the drugs themselves. So as I'm looking at both of you gentlemen and stuff, I mean, you've probably have faced different situations where you can't really relate to nobody because you feel embarrassed. So how can you open yourself up to heal yourself and then help someone else? So I'm sending that question to you guys.
Well, may I take the first stab at that, Dr. Dre? Here,
Yes, you
first
can.
I wanna thank Troy for bringing this up for us, and Unisa for being here from the UK, and you, Dr. Sarita. I just want to address something simple. And again, this is in my opinion, as being a person of color here in the United States, whose relatives, family have migrated in a way which created our true mental health condition. When you have been stolen from a
Yes.
continent and different nations and put in conditions that are worse than any animal on this planet, when you as a people have been treated less than human, and as we go over 400 years of that behavior that still exists today, men,
Yes.
women, and children of color, we all have mental issues. There's no one that gets to be my age at 60 years of age that has not been through any damaging mental issues. They just are. When you walk down the street as a black man, let me be very personal. As a fat black man, as I am, for me to be able to actually procure a job on MTV in the late 1980s, that sent me like, what the hell is this? How could this be? And then to be able to be successful there from 1989 to 1995 and keep everything together when everything you do is looked through a different prism. And then you can really sense when people are doing things for you for their own benefit. And they'll say these magic words to you. But look at this opportunity we gave you. Look at what we did for you. You became this because we let you get on our network and do what you do. And the way they treat you is they make you feel less than what you really are. Now, I can say they did that to everyone equally, but that would not be true. We were blessed to be paid what we were, but when we started out, we split a salary for one person there. So when my partner Ed and I were there, we split another one person's salary. You don't think that causes mental anguish for your family and you have to make certain decisions? It does. And for me, some people say Dr. Dre is always in denial of his health condition. I'm never in denial. I always raise my hand and say, I did this. No one else did. But my path to finding better care is, as Dr. Sarita said, I went to the creator, the master planner, the one who controls heaven and earth, and said,
Mm,
I need help. And I let the angels, I let the
mm.
family members who have passed
Amen.
help guide me and bless me and say, first things first, give up your faith and use the love. And when I say give up your faith, in other words, absorb the faith you have for that spirit that will get you there. Second, understand forgiveness. Because with forgiveness comes the ability to see things straight. But
Mhm.
understand the last thing I'm going to throw out there, it's in the creator's time, not your time.
Mhm.
Because the situations we've been put in here as
Mhm.
people of color, and I don't just mean we as African Americans, I'm talking about Asian Americans, Latino, Latin Americans, people of color from all different walks of life. The thing about being here in these United States with the colonizers who stole this land from Native Americans, and now they don't want to deal with it. So they decide to put up a presidential candidate who everyone can see he's got mental issues. But we point fingers at the gentleman who has age, wisdom, knowledge, and the ability to try to keep us out of war, try to
Mm.
progress our communities forward. And people then will sit there because we're conditioned to say, oh no, he's not the one. We need somebody younger and quicker. No, sometimes you need age, wisdom, and
Right.
experience.
That's right.
And we have to
Mhm.
introduce others to participate in that so we can deal with our mental issues. So, just as Dr. Sarita said about the medication, when we arrived here under that love boat that we call it, I call it the slave boat, but it's also the love boat, we didn't have any medication. How we were fed, we weren't fed. We were thrown objects to eat for survival. We were beaten into submission to do what is told. So the funny thing is, if you were caught reading the Holy Bible, they burn your eyes out. They'd hang you from trees. They would tar and feather you. Now imagine you pass away from that experience, but what about all those people who watched that experience? That creates mental health issues. That doesn't go away from generation to generation. We
Mhm.
try to survive it. We tuck it in a corner. We don't speak about it. So when you see somebody with issues such as, um, say, for example, they're autistic, there wasn't even a word back then for that. Say, for example, bipolar. All people of color are bipolar. You have to survive in a nation that never will treat you as an equal. And I say this in my own opinion, not as somebody saying, "Oh, I know for sure," but there's been no people who've ever been enslaved on this planet who were then
Right.
freed and
Mhm.
treated as equals.
Mhm.
I'll repeat,
Mhm.
no people on this planet who have ever been freed have ever been treated by equals by the master. So we can play games with each other, but a lot of our mental stress and sickness has been brought here under ships, migrating here and trying to find a way to get here stealthily, trying to survive the difference of vocabulary and language. But if you switch that and re-indoctrinate that, whether you are a Christian, Catholic, Muslim,
Right.
Buddhist, you name it, if we learn to come together and speak with each other, dialogue with each other, and find best ways to survive together, a lot of this mental anguish can be dealt with. Because it shouldn't be put off to a certain building and we'll just put all these people over there. I said some of the people who were in Washington, D.C., who actually sit in Congress, really need some mental health awareness and help.
That's true. That's
They really
true.
do. But we get
Mhm.
caught up in what's in front of us and we get caught up in things and objects and stuff that, I'll say this very, very succinctly,
Mhm.
that Egyptians tried to take, and those kings and pharaohs tried to be buried with what they thought they gained while being on this plane. It didn't work. You can't
Mhm.
take it with you. The only thing you take with you is your spirit and your faith and your forgiveness to the Creator. And also, we must find love and hope
Right.
as big
Mhm.
solutions. That's to me some of the greatest solutions. So it's not a medication. Some people, yes, they need medication. But then, like Dr. Sarita said, why? Why? And when we examine what they've been through in their lives, you see some of that detrimental behavior that was done. Because my mother used to say to me, my son doesn't bring home stray dogs and cats. He brings home stray human beings. And that's how we
Mhm.
adopted one of my stepbrothers. Because I understood, I could see what he was going through at the young age of 13 and 14. And I
Yep,
said, this
that's
is
the
wrong.
age. It's
This
the
is
age.
wrong.
Mhm.
And he couldn't understand it. So when he came to live with us, we had to almost re-educate him in a fashion that he could feel trust. He could feel safety. He could feel comfort. He could feel I can actually speak with somebody and they're listening to me. So it wasn't about judging the person. It's about understanding and also compassion. That's where we have to start when we deal with
Mhm.
mental health,
Mhm.
health awareness, and fitness. My
Mhm.
name is Dr.
Mhm.
Dre, Unisa.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dr. Dre. You know, the most phenomenal thing about being on this platform is listening to everyone's perspective. And being here with Dr. Dre, Dr. Sarita, and Troy is a phenomenal honor. Now, before I respond to your question, Dr. Sarita, um, Troy stated that we're going to go over this fundamental aspect of words. Now, let's think about words. We just don't speak. Regardless how angry we are, words has to go through a thought process before we can verbally, you know, convey those words before we speak. And words trigger an emotion. So it's a process. So for us to go through what we're going through with mental illness in so many different communities, when you say, I'm going to say a psychologist, people will say you're crazy. It's taboo for some communities to come out and say, well, or for one to say, I'm seeing a strength. So with that, there's so many different layers to it. And with this disorder, with this mental illness, this mental disorder, lies anxiety that has been stated, the bipolar aspect, the depression, it's so many different aspects to it. So how can we help is your question. How can we help others when we cannot help ourselves? How can we analyze ourselves without people judging us? In life, we will always be judged. And there's a saying that goes that no one feels your hunger or your pain but you. So if one don't try to help themselves, again, how can we help others? If you focus on the labeling aspect of the society that you live in this world, how can you live with yourself? Life is complicated. Life is difficult. If they're giving you medication, and that is why we see so many people going astray out there because they're selling their medication. And if you're not
Mhm.
taking, I had a TV show where I spoke because we had a psychological show. My co-host spoke on the medication aspect of, illnesses, disorders, and I spoke on the non-medical aspect of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So in life, we have to know what it is that we're going through. There was something called Uncle Google, which we spoke about on the last show,
Just say,
which you're going through. Have an
yeah.
understanding. Don't just let somebody say, well, this is what you're going through. This is the medication you have to take. Question it. Mental
Mhm.
illness is on the rise. If you feel as though there is something bringing you down, look for support. There's no one out there that can support you more than you. And for somebody to support you, you need to make that initial step. You need to take that step. So again, just to go back to it, Dre touched up on a lot of, things that I wanted to say. That's how you see, my mentor is speaking. When people were brought onto this over 300 plus years ago, 400 plus years ago, the way they were treated, and not to be biased, racial, or anything, but the Black community is going through so much, and we are not supporting each other. Instead, we are beating each other down. Until we find a way of coming together as one, as a unity, we will forever be the underdog. If we see somebody suffering from mental illness, find a way to support that individual. If you cannot support that individual, do not beat that individual down. My name is Unisa. Pass the mic.
Well, folks, I'm going to tell you, and as you said, Unisa, one of the best parts of being a part of this panel is listening to others speak and listen to their perspective. But there's a profound phrase that's been around for years, and I believe it came out of the Disney education, where it says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So I think what we're doing with this panel, we're letting people know we care, right? Because someone might be perusing Facebook or YouTube on a late night where their mind is just wandering, right? Looking for answers. And they come up on this video and they listen to Unisa. They hear Dr. Dre, they hear Dr. Sarita, and something resonates with them, right? This is what we want to do. We want to make it common to have these conversations so it's no longer a taboo, that you can just open up and have that conversation. So we want to provide, the resources like Dr. Sarita, who is our sister. She's a phenomenal woman and a great friend, and she listens. And everyone needs to find a Dr. Sarita, right? And they're out there. But again, it's the first step that you have to make. No one can make that step for you. So we encourage you, if you're seeking any type of assistance, support, just reach out. You can reach out to us. We'll do whatever we can possibly do to help get you the resources in your area. And I could tell you, down to the man and to the woman, if you contact us, we're going to be there for you. So you're not alone, right? No one is ever alone. It's not the first time anyone has gone through it. Trust me, if you're going through it, someone has already gone through it, and the answers are there for you to help you. So I'm going to pose one final question to the panel. And that question is, and I think I've already alluded to it, but what can we do to get this information to people, right? How can we maximize our gifts and our talents, our hearts, our passion and our dedication to make that difference, right? That we actually feel a difference taking place. And I'm going to start with Dr. Dre on this one.
Well, Simple Troy, thank you for that. Again, I use, like you said, words matter so much. That's why I use the word love more than anything else. Because see, hate is really easy to say. You ever hear this? Oh, well, they're just hating. That's just a hateration. And hate. That's so easy to say it. But if you go to some people, grown people, and say, you know what? Let's bring the love. Let's bring that love. Troy knows what I'm talking about. That love. And then you say, well, let's support that love with our actions as well as our words. Because the one thing that I find is that when we bounce into the slang word world, the reason we do that is because we're trying to hide communication from others who are trying to listen in and ear hustle us to death. So the opportunity for us to actually work and collaborate with great people like Dr. Sarita is using the word love, typing in and saying, you know what, I heard this here. How can you get me in contact with Dr. Sarita? Who do you suggest, Dr. Sarita, I should reach out to in my area? Because the resources are there. You have more people on the internet and on platforms. When you want to see something ridiculous and outrageous and out of control, oh, they know how to pass that around. That moves real quick everywhere. Oh, did you see this? Did you hear about this? Did you hear what he said about her? Did you hear what she said about him? Did you hear what she said about she? It goes around like wildfire. But when you stand there and you say, wait a minute, it's time for us to bring the love back, the real love, the love where we can take time out and listen to each other rather than pointing fingers and using extreme words to describe ourselves and then actually turn those words and say, oh, well, we took the word and now it's okay to call us nigger. It's never okay to call each other nigger. First of all, we don't know the meaning and how it came around. That it started from the Portuguese and the Spanish because they didn't know how to say black. So they said negre. Negre was the word for black. So when the word shipped across the ocean and it met our people in the South in Virginia, as we disengaged from those ships, they didn't say negre anymore. They said nigga, nigga. So they said, wait. Them niggers. And they created the word to describe us. And then we turn around in the 21st century and embrace it and say, oh, we're going to turn this into a love word. How do you take something that was used to describe their degradation against you as a human being and then turn the word around and say, oh, it's a love word? So why don't we erase that word and use love? Why are we so afraid of using the word love? So I think the first thing on our thing is to go out and say, I love you.
I love you.
So, Unisa, I love you, man. Bottom of my heart. Dr. Sarita, who always reaches out to me with love and says, I just want to make sure you're okay. Just want to know I love you. And I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because I am not reaching out to you that way, but I have to because you gave me love. That starts something in your brain that starts making you say, wait a minute, someone cares. And if they care, then I can find that love. Now, there's all abuses of people throwing the L word out there. Our goal is to get the start to say, you know what? This person's going through something. How do we build communities? Because there's a lot of homeless people out there. There's a lot of people out there with disabilities and special needs who need roofs over their head. They need someone to say, hey, I got this love. When you start bringing that love in there, all of a sudden it becomes harder and harder to pull a trigger. It's harder and harder to pull a knife out and stab somebody in anger because love will step in front of you and say, you don't need to do that. I know you're angry. I know you're upset. I know everything seems like it's coming to an end, but let's reverse that a little bit. And sometimes it's just bringing the voice down, bringing the tone down, and reaching out and saying, hey, wait a minute. Let's talk this through. Let me give you what I think you may need. It doesn't work for everyone, but if we start that process, if we turn the car wheel a little bit, all of a sudden, you'll see massive changes with people. And I'm not here to blame the colonizers who did what they did and are now trying to figure out how do we, these people are coming in, they're rushing in the country, they're trying to take over. Really? Wasn't it the Native Americans, the indigenous folks here, who taught you how to survive the winters of this nation that you live in? Wasn't it those people who taught you where to hunt, where to grow food, where to move to when the weather changes? Now you're wondering what's going on in the 21st century. Well, maybe you need to pay attention to those pilgrims, those colonizers, those adventurers who tried to wipe a nation of people out. Maybe you need to sit back and say, we apologize and we love you. we were wrong. That's forgiveness. That's when it starts. My name is Dr. Dre. Thank you for the blessing. For you, Dr. Sarita, for Women's Month and International Women's Day. And people of color, we must respect our queens, protect them at all costs. For without queens, we don't exist on this planet. My name is Dr. Dre. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, he done said it all. I mean, it is phenomenal. But one thing I will say that I was praying, trying to say, God, what's wrong with our young men with all this crime? So what I did was I gathered some men. I said, we're going to do a talk show host, and I want y'all to make a list of what you're going to ask your brother or your sister. And it really came out successful because they felt important that they were really doing something. They was not down. Because the minute that a kid, gets angry, they fight, it's a purpose. And so when I looked up, one of the parents came in and said, can I kind of see what y'all doing? So I let the lady came in and see what we were doing. And then I played back the tapes, just like what we're doing now. I put the kids to actually do it. And the lady, she said, this is what we really need. I said, well, it's here. All we have to do is just come on in, and it's free for them. And so, and I think, like you said, love is one of the key components of it all. Those kids want to see that somebody loves them unconditionally. And when they were talking on that talk show, it was just phenomenal. I was about in tears myself, and they enjoyed it. And so they said, well, can we do it again? I said, well, we're going to do it again every other week. I said, because I still have to work. But that was something that grabbed those young kids' mind, that somebody empowered something positive to them, and then gave them the opportunity to empower someone of their age. So I took the age 13, 14, and 15 so they can give back. And they really enjoyed it because nobody is reaching out to them with positive affirmations and stuff to say, hey, that you can do this, your greatness in you. So y'all keep up in prayer there, because a lot of times, as you know, when you get ready to start working in those capacities with those kids, the enemy gets jealous, and then they'll tell you, well, don't go there. Don't do this for this woman. Because see, it happened to me one time. And I even had people call me and said, I hate you. I make sure you don't make it. And, all those negative darts was getting at me. And I told him, I said, you know what? I'm called by God. Deal with him, because he put me in this position. So I'm reaching back to those youth for trying to bring them back up and say, hey, it's a new world out here. You can make a difference in it. And so we're going to do another taping on the 16th, and I'm pulling them together. I think I'm going to have about 12 kids this time and working with them and say, hey, this y'all talk show. Ask each other questions about what you like, what you don't like, what's your dreams, what's your goal. So other kids could see that too and say, maybe I want to be on there too. So that's what I'm filtrating now, because I want to get the stigma of mental health off of our community. Yes, we've been through it a lot. My grandfather would tell me about what they did when they were coming over and stuff. And so he's gone on, but that trauma so much, a lot of them didn't know how to deal with some of that. But we can change that dynamic in our community if we come together and make it happen, because I think we need it now than ever with these young kids. And Troy, I thank you and for the opportunity, to these great, powerful men that God is raising up. You're doing what God wants y'all to do. Y'all going to make an impact in the community. And that's what we need to do, to stick together, stop the ism and schism, and say, hey, our community need help. And that's where we need to focus at, is our community. We build our own wealth, And Dr. Dre, still go with that farm you was doing. Those kids need to see that farm. Get them out there on that farm so they can learn how to garden and stuff. Matter of fact, I started mine today because they're going to be out there gardening too. So we got to take them and put them in a different type of mindset. Yes, the good music is fine, but that good music ain't getting them nowhere. We got to go to the meat of them and say, hey, y'all going to be that next generation that's going to change the dynamic for all of y'all.
Well, Dr. Sarita, with those young men, you're letting them know how much you care, right? But before Unisa closes us out, I want to thank our sponsors. AYG Insurance and Financial Services. AYG, accept your greatness. Masterminds, the digital maniacs, doing all our graphics and editing. Thank you, Masterminds. And the Love 24 tour, the tour that's coming out fall 2024, Hip Hop 50, Health and Wellness, Dr. Dre Victory Foundation, RC. And just so much coming up, I'm sorry, that it's just the time to integrate everything we do into our community. We are all so passionate about it. We realize that God has put us in this position and we are embracing it. We are not running from it. We are bold in our approach. We're not trying to sneak up on nobody. We want you to hear us coming because we are coming. We've had enough and we are going to make a difference. To quote my man, John Lewis, the late great John Lewis, we about to get us some real good trouble. Trust me. So, Unisa, my brother, UK, global, worldwide influencer, please close us out.
Well, thank you so much. Love, what can we do without love? Because if we think about hate is of destruction. You know, how can we let people know we care? We have to understand when somebody is going through mental illness, it triggers their thought process, their behaviors, and their actions. So when you say you love someone or you care about someone, be vigilant, observe them. And to go back to the youths, because they're being affected in so many different aspects. We had a TV show that we put together as well here in the UK on our platform, where we had the youths from the community come on and talk about their experiences and how can the government support them and how can the community support them. Because sometimes we cannot depend on people to support us. We have to take that initial step. I also created a platform that, you know, Troy spoke on for Kamara youths, and which is global. We have the magazines that we go out, we have the snippets, we put it on the TV, we put it on the radio, we send it to different organizations as well. This is a way each and every one of us is doing our part. Dr. Dre is about to start his project of love. Dr. Sarita is doing her projects with the youths to support them. Whenever you start something, you will face obstacles. But always understand that there are other people out there watching. There are other people that are willing to support you. And there are people out there that are seeking your assistance, your help, your support. They will reach out to you. And for those of you that know people that are in need of our support, say, listen, why don't you watch this clip from M.A.T.H? Why don't you Google Dr. Sarita or Dr. Dre or Unisa or Kamara youths? You know, information that is informative can save a life. You never know what someone is going through. I can be out there smiling, but when I get behind doors, I'm crying. So if you see me smiling, that don't mean everything is good in my world. If you watch my behaviors, you will see certain patterns change. If you see me, someone that used to wear short sleeves, now I'm wearing long sleeves, maybe because I'm cutting myself. Converse with me. Maybe if I never used to wear sunglasses, now I'm wearing sunglasses because maybe somebody's beating me up and I'm trying to cover these marks. By us being vigilant, observant, we can make a difference. By engaging in a simple conversation, you're making a difference. So can we all make a difference? Without a doubt. We are here for a purpose. Have you discovered your purpose? you can make a difference in somebody's life. And somebody,
Mm.
you don't ever think you're going through worse than somebody else. Your story. That's why we create platforms like this. Dr. Dre got a platform. Dr. Sarita, Troy, we create platforms like this so your voice can echo in the ears of somebody that is going through something similar as you or worse than you. Share your story. You can make a difference. Thank you.
Mm.
No question.
Powerful.
Amen, brother.
Thank
Amen.
you for that, Unisa.
Powerful.
And once again, folks,
Powerful.
this is the CARE Global Leadership Series, the Math Edition, Men About Their Health. The CARE, the collaboration, the acceleration, the revelation, and the elevation. We are all in this together. We will make it happen. We will prevail, and we will get to that final destination. What I want, prosperity, love, and financial happiness for everybody. Let's all experience that, right? What would the world look like and sound like if crime was almost non-existent? Poverty was non-existent. Hate was non-existent. That's where we're headed, folks. So once again, thank you so much. And please always remember that don't nobody love you more than Troy, but God. God bless you all. Thank you, panel. See you next time. Dr. Sarita, love you.
Love you
Unisa,
too.
love you. Dr. Dre, love you.
Yes, that's
Love, everyone. The blessings are
amen.
here to be shared, cared, and learned. That's where we are.
Mm. Awesome.